Okay, hello. I believe we last stopped in learning. We were talking about these partial reinforcement schedules. Um, so we mentioned there's such a thing as a continuous reinforcement schedule where every time the behavior is done, it is reinforced. Now, a continuous reinforcement schedule is good when an organism is first learning a behavior. Um, they get it quicker, they understand faster, they'll learn the behavior quicker if it's on a continuous reinforcement schedule. And there has to go somebody by my backyard with a loud bike, so hopefully you can ignore that since it's passed. But anyway, continuous reinforcement schedule is good when an organism is first learning a behavior, they pick it up faster. But, right, if you're on a continuous reinforcement schedule and all of a sudden reinforcement stops, then extinction occurs more quickly. So really, if you are instead, after they learn the behavior on a continuous reinforcement schedule, you want to gradually shift them, right, to a partial reinforcement schedule where they're just reinforced every now and then. And once you're on a partial reinforcement schedule, you find what we mentioned is called the partial reinforcement effect, which is the phenomenon. Excellent if you sang that out loud. Where the behavior is more resistant to extinction if it's on a partial reinforcement schedule of some sort. Now, there are two types of partial reinforcement schedules. Pardon me here. Not endorsing anything, just every now and then, nice to have a stogie. But anyway, and just every now and then, right? Reinforce myself just every now and then with a stogie. It keeps me smoking stogies, right? But anyway, so there are two types of partial reinforcement schedules. There are ratio schedules and there are interval schedules, right? So ratio schedules are where the behavior is going to be reinforced after a certain number of responses, ratio. Interval is where the behavior is going to be reinforced. Basically, the first behavior after a period of time has passed is going to be reinforced. So you have ratio schedules and interval schedules, and then you have fixed and variable of both of those schedules, right? Fixed schedule, pardon me. Sorry, my nose was about to sneeze. But anyway, fixed ratio schedule. They're going to be reinforced after a fixed number of responses. It's always going to be the same on a fixed schedule of reinforcement, so it's predictable to the organism. We said that. And so it is on the fixed schedules of reinforcement, of partial reinforcement, that you find the post-reinforcement pause after they're reinforced. It has something to do probably with the fact that reinforcement is predictable, so you can afford to take a little break before you start responding again, something like that. So on a fixed ratio schedule, of course, reinforcement is dependent on the certain number of responses from the organism, so they try to do the behavior as quickly as possible and then get the reinforcement, take a little break, do it as quickly as possible, get the reinforcement, take a little break. It's that pattern in the fixed ratio schedule. On a variable ratio schedule, reinforcement is delivered after a certain number of responses, but it changes, constantly changing. So every time after the organism is reinforced, the next time it's going to be a different number of responses before reinforcement occurs again. So on a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement, you have a very high, very fast response rate from the organism. No pause after reinforcement because it's unpredictable. It could be the very next response, could be reinforced again. So you got to do it again and 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 keep doing it. So you're sitting at that slot machine all freaking day long, and you're not just sitting at one slot machine, you're sitting at 15 slot machines. These are mine, right? Variable ratio. Then you have interval schedules, right? Fixed interval, so that the first response that happens after a period of time is going to be reinforced, and it's always the same period of time. So you get the scalloped pattern of graphing of the behavior on a fixed interval schedule of reinforcement. Look at the graph in your book for that scalloped pattern. just as time goes by, they start responding a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until they're doing it a lot, because any moment now is going to happen, and then they get the reinforcement and they take a pause, right? This is a fixed schedule, fixed interval, fixed schedule. You have a post-reinforcement pause, right? It's predictable, so you can have a little pause after reinforcement occurs. Then you have the variable interval schedule of reinforcement, which leads to a moderate response rate, continuous moderate response rate over time, no pauses. Once again, variable schedule, no pauses. But here it's after a period of time has passed, so once again, the response rate is not crazy the way it is on a ratio schedule. On a ratio schedule, the quicker they do it, the more reinforcement they're going to get, so they do it as fast as they can, right? Interval schedule, more moderate response rate over time, right? So you should know the specific definitions of these schedules of reinforcement. What's a fixed ratio schedule? What's a variable interval schedule? But also know the overall pattern of behavior you get on these schedules of reinforcement, because there could be a question about that. I mean, what if a plant manager wants to get a continuous what if a plant manager notices that employees are taking breaks, consistently taking breaks, wasting time throughout the day, and so that plant manager wants to get a consistent response rate from the employees, a moderate consistent response rate from the employees throughout their working time. What schedule of reinforcement should he set up when he's consulting an IO psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist? Well, obviously, you want a moderate and consistent rate of response throughout the day, no pauses, right? No breaks, variable interval schedule, right? So those sorts of questions can be important too. Who knows? Could be on the test. Something similar to that anyway. Now, next we have concurrent reinforcement schedules, right? Concurrent reinforcement schedules. So you can put an organism on they have two different behaviors. They're being reinforced with an organism simultaneously. Concurrent reinforcement schedules, two different reinforcement schedules. So you could have a pigeon in a Skinner box. It pecks the red key on the left on a fixed ratio schedule of 5. It pecks the green key on the right on a variable interval schedule. Now, how was the organism going to behave? How is it going to act in response to these two different schedules of reinforcement that it's experiencing at the same time? Well, here's what you need to know from the matching law. I said you only need to know what I'm going to tell you. This is all you need to know. The organism matches its behavior to the schedule of reinforcement. That's it, right? That's what you need to know for the matching law. So the red key on the left was on a fixed ratio schedule of 5. The green key on the right is on a variable interval schedule. So the pigeon's just going back and forth, pecking between the two keys, right? Just, kind of looks like, what the heck is the pigeon doing? But when you look at the individual records of the pattern of response for the key on the left and the pattern of response for the key on the right, you see what you should see. You see the fixed ratio pattern of responses over here. Doing it as fast as it can, takes a little break. Do it as fast as it can, takes a little break on the left key, which is on a fixed ratio of 5 schedule. And then on the key on the right, which was a variable interval schedule, you see a moderate, consistent response rate over time. That's the matching law. An organism matches its behavior to the schedule of reinforcement for that behavior. That's it. That's the matching law. And that's what you need to know for the matching law, just the gist of what it is, right? An organism will match its behavior to the schedule of reinforcement for each of the behaviors that is facing simultaneously, concurrent reinforcement schedule, right? So let's see, that is a little bit more on those partial reinforcement schedules, and then on the matching law and concurrent reinforcement schedules, right? Now, after that, let's see here. Yeah, we're skipping concurrent chain reinforcement schedule, right? We're skipping that, and we're skipping the language stuff as well, right? So just remind you about that, and I think that's it for this video, and we will continue in another video soon.